So we're grateful to finally be at this place where we have put lights back on almost all of those candles. Because what we do during the season of Lent is extinguish a candle each time we gather. During the season of Advent, the 4 weeks before Christmas, we add a candle each week. And so we gather the light then. But during Lent, as we move toward the cross and Holy Week, we diminish the light. And we feel some of the darkness of the world and some of the darkness that is inside of us. And some of the darkness that is crying out for light and for possibility and for hope. And so being grateful that we've added more light, we take one of the traditions that we have learned from another faith, where we kind of imagine ourselves pulling in some of that light and allowing that light just not to be something that we see, but that light being something that we feel, something that comes in us, something that can't be removed from us, a light that is at our core, and a light that fuels us, and a light that tells us to go. Because with Jesus, the disciples are students. They're not just students who are learning something. These students are disciples because they appreciate the ideas and the ideals that are what Jesus speaks and what Jesus acts. And so they aren't just watching him, but they're trying to become just like him. Sometimes students want to learn their craft and do it their own way, but with the disciples, they want to echo and emulate Jesus, and so they really watch him and they really listen to him. And then they become apostles, and apostles are ones who are sent with a particular mission. And in this instance, the apostles are sent with a mission to spread love. And so we have been watching Jesus in our annual cycle of the Christian year, and we're now at the point where we've seen a lot, and we've absorbed a lot, and now we are sent out to be Jesus, to be Christ-like in the world, to try to transform the places that need more light, to try to bring circles of care and kindness, to try to be hospitable and welcoming, to try to do the things that Jesus did. And so we talked a little bit already about this cross. Last Sunday, it was our Palm Sunday cross, when we remember Jesus and the disciples and others coming into the city, the walled city, to celebrate Passover. Some of you have heard about Passover. And when they came in, we were waving our palms as a sign of appreciation, as a sign of excitement, but also in protest because of others who were entering the city at Passover to try to quell the people and quiet their talks about freedom. Jesus, in our stained glass window, is standing on some chains trying to set people free. And so when we were waving those palms and placing them in the cross, we were committing ourselves to be people who set each other free. People who try to take the burdens off of people's backs. People who try to give people an expanse, an open place, a place where they can thrive. And then those palm branches began to dry and become brittle. And on Thursday evening, when we gathered for worship again, we took those palm branches out and let them drop to the ground, because that was the moment where Jesus had expressed his love to the disciples by giving them the first communion and by washing their feet, showing them how to serve. And then the disciples fled. They faded away. They couldn't sustain that kind of intensity when the people were turning against Jesus, when the people in power were afraid of what he might do to set people free and to turn things upside down. And so the palms fell to the ground in their brittle state. And then on Friday, when we gathered for worship, we slid some nails into the cross, like you may have slid some flowers in there, remembering as we did that we are complicit. We're part of the problem. We're part of the challenges of keeping people locked in and locked down and overburdened. And then at the end of the service, we took the nails out to signify that we are part of the solution. We are people who have power that can be used correctly, power that can be used to spread more love, more kindness into the world. And then it waited yesterday. That cross was open. That cross was empty. That cross was just sitting there kind of leaning a little bit. You can see it. And then today you helped us to put the flowers in there to reclaim this again, this symbol for life and for love and for beauty and for community and for working together to create things that make a difference, things that do call to us and invite us to live differently, an alternate world than what we sometimes see. Some of you were here the other day when we showed this cross for the first time. Carla Beck made this, church member, and she tells us the story about putting all this together with second-hand clothing, with quilts and with clothing that she took apart and sewed together, remembering the crimson and the darks, the difficulty. Maybe you see the nails, maybe you see the other things that are happening that are dark and difficult and worrisome. And then we can turn this around and you can see what happens today, what happens on Easter morning, that things come together in a different way and that there's light and nails falling away and holes that will be filled and a joy and a centering of community and gifts that are shared. And so all these things come together so that we can reclaim this cross, reclaim our responsibilities, and move forward with love in our hearts, with partnership at our core, wanting to transform those places that are dark, transforming those places where people can't taste freedom at all. And so we have a path ahead for each of us and for all of us. And we have to make decisions every day on whether or not we're going to be a part of the solution, whether or not we're going to do everything in our power to spread this love, to be those students, those disciples who learned from Jesus and then decided that we are sent in the same ways and we are sent with the same gifts and the same possibilities and responsibilities. Do we have what it takes? It's an open question, whether or not we have what it takes. Each of us has to ask ourselves that question, and then we have to ask the communities that we gather with to try to discern whether or not we have what is needed to stay focused on the partnerships and to stay focused on the new life and to stay focused on breaking the chains and feeding people and quenching people's thirsts and visiting people who are sick and trying to get people out of prisons and out of places where they have been betrayed and denied and forgotten. Some of you might remember that at the beginning of Lent, in one of our daily devotions that we sent out, I told you a story about my car running out of energy. I was on my way to a funeral. It's a clergy's worst nightmare. On your way to officiate a funeral and you have car trouble. It turns out it was my fuel pump, and so suddenly I had no gas at all. I was on the highway, and fortunately it was able to get off onto the breakdown lane quickly enough, and then my car was repaired. A couple of days later, the same thing happened. This time I was who's laughing? Running out of gas on a highway is very dangerous. I was able to find my way to the side of the road. I was on the way to a church council meeting. That was a lesson to me. Don't go to church council meetings. And so I had the car towed again to Gary, our mechanic, who we really appreciate because we have too many cars in our family. And Gary kept it for 3 weeks to try to figure out what was happening. Turns out that it wasn't just the fuel pump, but it was also the fuel gauge. And so he told me that it was going to be very expensive to fix the fuel gauge, that what I really needed to do was just get gas every time I got down to about a quarter tank. Because my car actually ran out of gas the second time, but it said that there was more than a quarter of a tank in it. So when I went to pick up the car, he said, actually, I've been thinking more about it, and when it gets down to about half, you should probably get more gas. And so now I drive like this, staring at the gas meter. And I figured out that what I could probably do is put maybe one of these plastic Easter eggs in there on a string, and when When it kind of drops, I'll know, I guess, that my gas is going down. But the question is, do I have what it takes? Do I have enough fuel? Do I have enough gas? Do I have enough energy? Do I have enough skills? Do I have enough spirit? Do I have enough stamina? Do I have enough sweetness to do the things that God wants me to do? In the Gospels, we talked a little bit earlier about the four in the United States or in the world would all write it very differently, but would be writing the same story about the same moment. And so the four Gospels tell the story a little bit different. And one of them says that when Jesus talks to them at the tomb after he is resurrected, after the linen clothes fall away from him and he's back to life, he says, I'm going ahead of you and I'll meet you in Galilee. And it gives the women and gives the disciples encouragement to know that the Holy is already out ahead of them. The Holy is already in all of the places that they're going to go. The Holy is already waiting for them. He might have a head start. I say head start intentionally. Have you heard about Head Start? So he already has a head start, and he gets to the places that they're going to go, and he prepares a place for them. He doesn't make it simple for them, but he lets them know that they are not going to be alone when they get to that place. And Jesus says, too, in another version of this story of Easter morning, do not be afraid. And there are angels in another one of the stories that say, do not be afraid, because fear can overwhelm us. Fear can consume us. Fear can stop us in our tracks. And Jesus says, I will meet you there. Do not be afraid. And so we have to go. We've been talking about all the places that we have been, all the places that we've seen Jesus go. And now we have to go. We're equipped. We're called. We might not have everything we need. We might not have all the gas that we need. We might not have all of the nuances that we need. But that's where we come into partnerships. And that's where we commit ourselves to doing it with other like-minded, like-hearted, like-spirited people. We kind of gather as elephants in a circle, trying to find the most vulnerable, trying to connect to each other, trying to stay sturdy among the shifting landscape and the shifting ground. And so I want to offer a couple of blessings as we think about this task before us to go out onto this path, bringing the love, bringing the light, trying to set people free, trying to meet people's needs, trying to be authentic and generous and kind, knowing where we are limited and where we need to try a little bit harder and where we need to let go and where we need to commit to trying things in a new way. And so I want to offer this blessing. Some of you might know this. It comes from a man named Fethullah Gulen, a native of Turkey who lived in the United States until his recent death. And he talked about prospering our hearts. And so we want to invite you to think about your heart being strengthened as you go to do this work. So he said, prosper our hearts. We are on the road, O Allah. Grant us your aid. With your grace, come to the rescue of your servants once again. Surely there must be an end to this ceaseless struggle. Save your bondsmen and bring joy to their hearts. Our eyes remained fixed on the horizon, ever awaiting dawn. Remember these weary strangers with your intimate grace. Let roses bloom in gardens and vineyards forevermore. Grant us those days of roses as a cherished routine. How many centuries have passed since rivers ran dry? Release the mercy you've withheld within your presence. Grant us strong wings to soar toward eternity. Our final plea, O Lord, prosper our hearts. And from the Talmud, a central sacred text of Judaism, we hear, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justly now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it. So we have walked this journey of Holy Week, and we have seen devastation. And we know devastation now. We've seen slaughtering, and we've seen threats. We've seen people who tried to disappear other people. We see people who close themselves off when there is difference. And we see people who are hungry and thirsty, literally spiritually. And so our Easter wish is that we could keep the lights burning, that we could feel equipped to do this work, and that when we're unable to, and when the fuel is gone, we find places of rest and refreshment in each other, and we find the gifts of nature that can fill us and can guide us and reform us. And so our Easter wish to each of you, to all of you, is that you will feel this call, and you'll feel this equipping. You'll feel this encouragement. You'll feel this immediacy, this urgency, and you'll also find ways to partner and to rest and to be held by the holy. Please pray with us. Holy One, we hear you. We know what we need to do, and yet sometimes we're unable, sometimes unwilling to do that. And so encourage us as we move into paths ahead that we don't know, paths we've been on and paths that are new to us. Help us to know that we're not there alone, that we are there with your Spirit, and that you guide us and gift us every step of the way, and you allow us to align with others who are like-minded, like-hearted, like-spirited, and so we can accomplish great things together. You called a community, O God, as you gathered the disciples, men and women who listened and watched and learned how to be more like you and to create the kind of communities that you envision. And so now as you send us in our vulnerability and in our power, help us to be wise and faithful. Help us to know when to let go, when to rest, when to be in the background, when to be in the foreground, when to raise our voices, and when to be gentle and quiet. God, help us as we discern exactly how to spread this love further into the world. Amen.